The archives, forbidden truth, the Galactic Harmony Federation had catalogued every world, every species, every potential threat in their vast dominion spanning 12 galactic sectors. Their archives contained billions of entries, each meticulously documented and cross-referenced. Yet on this ordinary cycle, in the depths of their most secure data vault on Station Prime, something extraordinary happened. A junior archivist named Vec stumbled upon an encrypted file so old its quantum signature predated the Federation itself. Commander Zalera of the Archives Division received the alert while reviewing routine census data from the Outer Rim. Her crystalline form shimmered with curiosity as she materialized in the vault's core chamber. Vec waited nervously, his 6 arms twitching with anxiety. The file floated between them, a holographic cube pulsing with red warning indicators that hadn't been seen in 10,000 cycles. The encryption was unlike anything in modern Federation databases. It used biological markers, stellar positions from extinct star systems, and mathematical constants that seemed deliberately obscured. Zalera initiated the decryption sequence, her consciousness merging with the archive's quantum processors. Layer after layer of security peeled away, each one more complex than the last. Someone had wanted this information buried forever. When the final lock broke, silence filled the chamber. The file contained a single entry about a world the Federation knew as Earth, designation Sulthury, inhabited by a primitive species called humans. But that wasn't what made Zalara's form flicker with shock. The true designation hidden beneath layers of deception read Prometheus Prime, Heartworld of the Guardian. Protocol, Keeper of the Eternal Flame. The implications crashed through her consciousness like a supernova. Earth wasn't a backwater world of primitives. It was something far more dangerous. The humans weren't a young species struggling with basic spaceflight. They were something the galaxy had tried desperately to forget. Zalera immediately triggered the highest level security alert, sealing the vault and initiating emergency protocols that hadn't been used since the Federation's founding. Within hours, the Inner Council convened in the crystalline chamber, a place where only the most dire matters were discussed. Representatives from the 12 founding species appeared as holograms, their forms reflecting the gravity of the situation. High Chancellor Vorak, ancient even by Federation standards, spoke first. His voice carried the weight of forgotten history. The Prometheus Protocol was real. Not a myth, not a legend, but a documented fact hidden in their own archives. 10 millennia ago, a species had risen to become the galaxy's self-appointed guardians. They possessed technology that defied understanding, ships that could fold space, itself and weapons that could rewrite the fundamental laws of physics within localized regions. They called themselves the Prometheus Collective, and they had maintained peace through a simple principle. Any species that threatened galactic stability would face immediate and total neutralization. But something had happened. The records were deliberately destroyed, but fragments remained. The collective had vanished overnight, their vast fleets disappearing into the void, their worlds going dark. The species that would become the Federation's founders had celebrated, believing themselves free from their watchful guardians. They had renamed the collective's Heartworld, buried its true nature, and allowed its inhabitants to devolve into primitives, or so they had believed. Chancellor Vorek's form wavered as he accessed deeper memories, genetic recordings passed down through generations. The Prometheus Collective hadn't been destroyed. They had chosen to sleep, to step back and watch, to test if the galaxy could govern itself without their intervention. Earth, or rather Prometheus Prime, was never primitive. It was dormant, waiting for a specific trigger. The discovery of its true name deep beneath the Antarctic ice on Earth. In a facility that officially didn't exist, Marcus Chen felt his neural implant activate for the first time in his life. The sensation was like liquid fire racing through his synapses, awakening parts of his brain that had been genetically suppressed for generations. He was a janitor, or at least that's what his employment records showed. But as the implant fully initialized, memories that weren't quite his own flooded his consciousness. Marcus stumbled to the facility's hidden core, his body moving with purpose. His conscious mind didn't fully understand. His palm pressed against a wall that looked like every other wall, but his implant recognized the quantum signature hidden beneath. The wall dissolved, revealing a chamber that hummed with barely contained energy. At its center stood a simple pedestal with a single interface, waiting patiently for someone like him. The moment his hand touched the interface, every dormant system on Earth awakened. Not violently, not obviously, but with the subtle precision of a perfectly orchestrated symphony. Satellites that had been written off as space debris oriented themselves with new purpose. Deep ocean facilities that appeared on no map began their startup sequences. The moon itself, humanity's constant companion, revealed sensor arrays and weapon platforms carved into its very core. Marcus understood now. He wasn't just Marcus Chen. He was Guardian Marcus Chen, one of thousands of sleepers scattered across Earth, their true nature hidden even from themselves until the protocol activated. His ancestors had made a choice to forget, to let humanity play at being primitive while the galaxy found its own way. But someone had found the name. Someone had broken the seal. Around the world, others like Marcus were awakening. They were teachers, farmers, soldiers, scientists, and artists. Each one carried dormant memories, genetic locks that were now breaking. They remembered the truth. Humanity hadn't conquered the stars through violence. They had become the galaxy's immune system, the force that prevented any one species from dominating others. They had been judges, executioners, and protectors all in one. The transformation wasn't immediate or violent. It was subtle, like a sleeping giant slowly opening its eyes. Earth's governments, unaware of their world's true nature, continued their petty conflicts and political theater. But beneath the surface, the real humanity was stirring. The Prometheus Protocol had 3 stages. Stage 1 was awakening, the gradual activation of dormant systems and personnel. Stage 2 was assessment, determining if the galaxy had learned to govern itself peacefully. Stage 3 was judgment, and that was what the Federation feared most. Back on Station Prime, panic was spreading through the ranks. The discovery couldn't be contained. Quantum communications carried fragments of the truth to every corner of Federation space. Some species remembered ancient stories, myths of the Watchers who had once ruled through wisdom and terrible power. Others discovered gaps in their historical records, entire centuries seemingly erased or rewritten. Asterisk Commander Zalara worked desperately to understand the full scope of what they had uncovered. The archives revealed more with each passing hour. The Prometheus Collective hadn't been conquerors. They had been a voluntary alliance of species who had transcended the need for resources, territory, or dominance. They had achieved something. The Federation still struggled with true unity of purpose. The most terrifying discovery was that humanity hadn't devolved. They had chosen limitation, deliberately suppressing their capabilities to give younger species a chance to grow without interference. Every war, every conflict, Every seemingly primitive struggle on Earth had been a carefully orchestrated performance. They had been testing themselves, maintaining their edge while appearing helpless. Federation surveillance of Earth increased dramatically, but what they saw only deepened their fear. Humans continued their daily lives, apparently unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding. But careful analysis revealed patterns. Key individuals were moving with new purpose. Scientific breakthroughs that should have taken decades were happening overnight. Military assets were being quietly repositioned. Earth was preparing for something, and the Federation could only watch. The Inner Council debated their options. Some called for immediate preemptive strike, arguing it was better to face primitives with hidden weapons than fully awakened guardians. Others counseled patience, hoping the protocol might simply be a defensive measure. But High Chancellor Vorak knew the truth. The decision had already been made 10,000 years ago when the Prometheus Collective chose to sleep. They had given the galaxy one chance to prove it could exist without them. The Federation's very existence, built on conquest and control, was proof of failure. As the first part of this tale closes, Earth stands on the precipice of transformation. The sleepers are awakening, the old systems are coming online, and the galaxy holds its breath. The humans don't know their humanity's salvation or its doom. They only know that something fundamental has changed. The mask is slipping, and soon Prometheus Prime will remember its purpose. The question that haunts every Federation leader is simple. Will humanity judge them worthy of continued existence, or will the Guardians decide the experiment has failed? Marcus Chen stood in the chamber, data streaming through his consciousness. He could feel others like him across the globe, a network of awakened minds slowly reconnecting. The protocol was clear. Observe, assess, decide. Humanity had played. At being weak for so long, some had forgotten it was an act. But the genetic memories were strong, the training embedded in their very DNA. When the time came, they would remember how to be what they once were. The galaxy's last line of defense against itself. The Federation had discovered Earth's true name, and in doing so, had initiated a sequence of events that couldn't be stopped. The terror that gripped them wasn't fear of invasion or conquest. It was the fear of judgment from a species that had once deemed itself worthy of deciding the fate of entire civilizations. And now, after 10 millennia of sleep, the judges were waking up. Asterisk, the Prometheus Protocol, the transformation of Earth, began not with explosions or invasions, but with a collective exhale, as if the planet itself had been holding its breath for 10,000 years. Marcus Chen stood at the center of the awakening, his consciousness now fully integrated with the Prometheus network. Through it, he could feel every other awakened guardian across the globe. They numbered in the thousands, each one a nexus of knowledge and capability that had been sleeping within human genetic code in Beijing. Dr. Sarah Wu suddenly understood why her research into quantum entanglement had felt so familiar. The equations she'd been struggling with for years resolved themselves in moments as dormant knowledge surfaced. She wasn't discovering new science. She was remembering old truths. Within hours, she had constructed a communication device that could reach across galactic distances instantaneously. Bypassing all Federation monitoring. The awakening spread like wildfire through humanity's collective unconscious. Not everyone was a guardian, but every human carried fragments of the old knowledge. Artists began painting star maps of systems they'd never seen. Children played games that were actually ancient tactical exercises. Musicians composed harmonies that resonated with quantum frequencies used in forgotten technologies. President Elena Rodriguez of the Americas Union felt the change during a routine security briefing. Her advisors were discussing the latest border dispute when she suddenly understood that every conflict on Earth for the past century had been orchestrated, not by shadow governments or conspiracies, but by humanity's own collective unconscious, maintaining combat readiness through controlled conflict. The realization should have horrified her. Instead, it brought clarity around the world. Similar epiphanies were occurring. The divided nations of Earth weren't evidence of humanity's weakness, but of its wisdom. They had maintained diversity of thought, preventing the stagnation that had claimed so many advanced civilizations. Every philosophy, every government type, every social experiment had been preserved, creating a species with unparalleled adaptability. In the depths of space, Jupiter's great red spot began to shift. What astronomers had observed for centuries as a storm was revealing its true nature. Beneath the swirling gases lay the Ghost Fleet, 10,000 ships of impossible design, each one capable of rendering entire star systems uninhabitable. They had been waiting, patient as stone, for the call to wake. The Federation's surveillance systems screamed warnings as energy signatures they couldn't comprehend blazed to life throughout the Sol system. Mars revealed vast underground cities, empty but perfectly preserved. The asteroid belt reorganized itself, revealing it had never been natural debris but carefully positioned resources for rapid construction. Even Earth's moon dropped its disguise, showing the massive defense platforms built into its core. High Chancellor Vorak called an emergency session as reports flooded in. The transformation was accelerating beyond their worst fears. But what terrified them most was the coordination. Humanity wasn't scrambling to understand newfound power. They were executing a plan that had been in place since before the Federation existed. Ambassador Krell of the Vorthon Collective volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission: direct diplomatic contact with Earth. The Vorthons had been among the youngest species when the Prometheus Collective vanished, barely spacefaring. Perhaps that youth, that innocence, might grant him mercy where older species would find only judgment. His ship approached Earth under every peaceful protocol the Federation knew: no weapons, no shields, broadcasting surrender on all frequencies. The journey that should have taken months was compressed into days as humanity's awakened technology bent space around his vessel, drawing him in like a curious child examining an insect. Krell was directed not to Earth's official capitals, but to Antarctica, where the ice had melted in perfect circles, revealing structures that predated human civilization as the Federation understood it. Marcus Chen waited for him, no longer the janitor, but not quite the guardian either. He existed in the space between, humanity's voice to the galaxy that had forgotten them. The meeting took place in a chamber that defied physics as the Federation understood it. The walls showed every star simultaneously, as if the room existed everywhere and nowhere. Krell's translation devices failed. Instead, he understood Marcus perfectly through some deeper communication that bypassed language entirely. Marcus explained what the Federation had never understood. The Prometheus Collective hadn't been rulers or conquerors. They had been gardeners, nurturing species through their violent adolescence into galactic citizenship. Every species the Federation counted as founding members had once been saved from self-destruction by Prometheus intervention. The Collective had stopped wars, prevented genocides, and guided civilizations through the dangerous transition from planetary to galactic existence. But they had grown tired, not physically, but spiritually. The burden of constant vigilance, of making decisions for species that should have been making them for themselves, had worn them down. So they had made a choice. They would sleep, let the galaxy govern itself, and see if their work had been successful. Earth would become a test and a safeguard, appearing primitive while maintaining the ability to awaken if needed. The Federation itself was part of the test. Would species cooperate without enforcement? Would they share resources without coercion? Would they protect the weak without reward? The answer, Marcus explained with infinite sadness, was no. The Federation had become everything the Prometheus Collective had fought against, a hierarchical system where might made right, where younger species were absorbed or eliminated, where fear maintained order instead of wisdom. Krell asked the question that burned in every Federation mind: what happens now? Marcus's answer was simple and terrifying. The Prometheus Protocol had 3 stages, and they were entering stage 2. Assessment. Humanity would observe, analyze, and judge. Every species would be evaluated not on their power or technology, but on their wisdom, compassion, and growth potential. Those found worthy would be offered a choice: join the new collective as equals or continue independently with humanity's protection. Those found wanting would face correction, not destruction, Marcus emphasized, but fundamental change. The Prometheus Collective had never believed in extinction as a solution. They believed in evolution, forced if necessary, *. The ghost fleet around Jupiter began to move, not toward Federation space, but into defensive positions around Earth. The message was clear: humanity would not attack, but they would not be attacked either. Any aggressive action would trigger Stage 3 immediately, and Stage 3 was something even Marcus hoped to avoid. Back on Earth, the transformation continued. Cities that had seemed chaotic revealed hidden patterns, infrastructure designed to support technology far beyond current human use. The Internet, that chaotic web of information, suddenly showed its true purpose as a training ground for collective consciousness. Social media, for all its flaws, had been preparing humanity to think as a species rather than individuals. Dr. Sarah Wu successfully contacted other awakened minds across the galaxy, species that had been seeded with Prometheus knowledge and left dormant like Earth. The collective had never fully disappeared. They had dispersed, planted seeds, and waited. Now those seeds were sprouting on 100 worlds, each one remembering its purpose. The Federation's economy collapsed within days, as markets realized the fundamental assumption of scarcity was false. Humanity demonstrated technologies that could convert energy directly into matter, making resource wars obsolete. They showed medical techniques that could extend life indefinitely, making population pressures meaningless. Every problem the Federation used to justify its harsh methods was suddenly solvable. Some species tried to steal the technology, sending covert teams to Earth. They returned unharmed but changed, their minds touched by something that left them unable to explain what they'd experienced. They spoke of seeing the universe from humanity's perspective, understanding the weight of judgment, the burden of power. Most resigned their positions and became advocates for peaceful cooperation. President Rodriguez addressed the Earth for the first time since the awakening. She explained what humanity had hidden from itself, why they had chosen to forget. The power to judge, to decide the fate of entire species, was corrupting. So they had hidden it, locked it away, and lived as mortals, to remember what it meant to struggle, to suffer, to survive. Only by experiencing weakness could they fairly judge others' failures. The speech was broadcast across the Federation through technologies that bypassed all censorship. For the first time, ordinary citizens heard the truth about their history, about the guardians who had once protected them, about the choice humanity had made to step back. The reaction was not the panic the inner council expected, but something far more dangerous. Hope.Revolution didn't come through violence, but through revelation. Species began to question why they followed the Federation's rules, why they accepted artificial scarcity, why they feared each other. The awakening wasn't just happening on Earth. It was happening across the galaxy as suppressed memories and hidden knowledge surfaced. Marcus, Chen, and the other Guardians monitored the transformation with careful attention. The protocol was clear about Stage 2's duration, 1 galactic rotation, roughly equivalent to an Earth year. During that time, every species would be observed, their response to the truth measured. Those who embraced change, who sought to grow beyond their current limitations, would be noted. Those who clung to old power structures, who tried to maintain control through force, would also be remembered. The most surprising development came from the youngest species, those the Federation had marked for absorption or elimination. They adapted fastest to the new reality, reaching out to Earth with genuine curiosity rather than fear. The children of the galaxy, it seemed, were ready for change even if their elders weren't. As the second part of this tale concludes, the galaxy stands transformed but not yet reborn. The Prometheus Protocol continues its work, patient and inexorable. Earth has revealed its true nature, but humanity has not yet decided the galaxy's fate. That decision awaits Stage 3, and what that stage will bring depends entirely on how the galaxy responds to this chance for redemption. Marcus stood in the Antarctic facility, watching data streams from across known space. Every action, every decision, every choice made by every species was being recorded, analyzed, weighed. The burden his ancestors had carried was now his. The terrible responsibility of holding the power of judgment over entire civilizations. But unlike his ancestors, he and his fellow guardians had lived as the judged. They knew what it meant to be powerless, to be afraid, to be human in the smallest sense of the word. That experience would guide their judgment. The galaxy had been given notice, change or be changed. The choice was theirs, but the consequences would be humanity's to enforce. The terror that had gripped the Council when they discovered Earth's true name was justified, but not for the reasons they believed. The real terror was not in humanity's power, but in their wisdom, their ability to see through every deception, every justification, every excuse that species used to avoid growth. The Prometheus Protocol was not about punishment, but about potential. Every species had the capacity for greatness, but most chose comfort over growth, dominance over cooperation, fear over love. Humanity had learned these lessons through 10,000 years of self-imposed limitation. Now it was time for the rest of the galaxy to learn them too, whether they wanted to or not. Asterisk,